Off. Hello, my name is Brad Bodnerchuk, and welcome to the Half a Dozen Hospitality Podcast, where we discuss everything hospitality, from the food on the plate to the teams that make it happen and the community that drives this industry forward. On this podcast, we sit down and chat with some of the most exciting, inspiring, and innovative minds that make up one of the most dynamic industries that there is today. And today we have the pleasure of being joined by none other than Nathaly and Jeff from Windfall Cider. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It is an excessively bright and beautiful day here in Vancouver. And I say this on my podcast ad nauseum, but I say it because I mean it to the marrow of my bones. The most important thing, most valuable thing that we all have is time. So thank you so much for giving me and this show your time today.
Thank you.
And certainly to the listeners.
Yeah, listeners as well. So I always start the show off, not always, but generally with one question. I'm going to completely go off the board today. And I was thinking about your product, Windfall Cider, and I was thinking, what question could I ask to kick off this show? I'm really into music. I love music. Music, food, art is kind of my thing. So if I was to open a can of Windfall Cider, pour it into a glass, and drink it, if it was a genre of music, what genre of music would it be?
That is a great question. You have to answer that question.
It's funny because those of you that aren't watching on YouTube, no. Jeff had a smile ear to ear, and Nathaly was like, what the hell kind of question is this? How are we going to field this one?
Our wedding vows
said
that we would always respect each other's questionable tastes in music.
Oh, okay.
So music runs deep in our relationship. That there's a music divide.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's okay.
In our household as well, it's country with Lindsay and it's hip hop with me, so it's always very varied.
Yeah, there we go. Jeff is, alternative British.
Like
brit-pop.
Yeah.
Brit-pop, okay.
I've always been a big fan, so I would say brit-pop.
Brit-pop?
Yeah.
Can you give us like an artist that you think, and this one meant to be a fun question, but also a bit serious as well. Like I want to paint a picture for the listeners of what can they expect from this product? And is that what you get when you open it and you have a sip? Is that what you're getting? You're getting a bit of Brit-pop? And if so, why? What about Brit-pop and what about Windfall Cider kind of marries together to resonate with you that way?
Well, one of my favorite artists of all time is Paul Weller.
Okay, yeah.
Paul Weller, who started the Jam, broke up the Jam, started the Style Council, left that part of his career and started a solo career that he's been, that path has been going for 25 years. One thing that I love about him is that he consistently puts out great music.
Okay.
There's a lot of artists that were prevalent in the 80s that had like 5 great albums, continue to put out product, continue to put out music, but it really does pale in comparison to what they used to do. Mm-hmm. Paul Weller consistently comes out with great music.
Cool.
Album after album after album has just been fantastic. There's nothing that you could, there's a couple of albums that you could point to that you could say that wasn't as good as his last one, but consistently it's pretty good. So if I was to crack open a can of Windfall, I would say a guy like me, 25 years in financial services, I had a career prior to this, and I want to make a great product consistently for the next 25 years of my life. So leaving one part of my life behind and going off on a new part, that's reminiscent of what Paul Weller has done in his career, the Jam, Style Council, and his solo career. But also consistently have a good product from flavor to flavor to flavor. And I shouldn't use that flavor because we get asked all the time, what flavor is your cider? Because the cider industry in Vancouver and BC has been tainted, I would say a little bit, by products that were more alcopop than pure proper cider. Mm-hmm. So there's peach flavor, blackberry flavor, plum flavored ciders. So calling us a flavor, but let's say from brand to brand to brand, Windfall Jackpot is an excellent product that we want to appeal to a lot of people. Windfall Sweater Weather, which we have in front of us as well, but from one of our brands to another brand to another brand, we want to make sure that the quality is there,
right,
and that people come away from it with a good taste. Well, obviously with a good taste in their mouths.
Yeah, I like that.
First and foremost. So I don't brit-pop, Paul Weller.
Cool. That's a great answer. I like that one. Nathaly, do you have a different answer?
I'll go with that.
Yeah.
That's a great question. It would take me a full day.
Oh yeah.
For me to.
I appreciate that kind of consideration.
Answer that. Yeah, and
and
he answered it well.
It's a terrific question, and I'll give you my feeling for that. I remember sitting down with an old client of mine in financial services, a broker, and we'd had an 8 or 9 year long relationship wherein we talked about investments. What's the bond market doing? What's the stock market doing? What's the alternative investment world doing? And one of the meetings that we had, and it was amongst one of my last meetings as a financial services professional, I said, let's take a little bit of a change. Let's do things a little differently with this meeting. I don't know anything about you. What's your favorite music? And all of a sudden, boom, his eyes lit up. Let me tell you about this. I was into this when I was young. I'm into this right now. I love this band. And everything turned. So it's something that people can be very, very passionate about. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you asked that question, so you're passionate about music, and like, boom, all of a sudden our relationship changed.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because, and I'll just get right into this. So before this life, before restaurant consulting and doing this podcast, I was in the beer industry for 5.5 years. And I saw a lot of my success in getting SKUs listed and in getting product listed and getting beer poured in certain restaurants and certain bars. It was all about relationships. They didn't really want to have the typical conversation. They wanted to know that you actually cared about their business and growing their business, and that took a little bit more time and a little bit more like massaging and asking those questions like, hey, how was your night last night? And not about work, like how was your night? Like how was your kid? Or I feel like that is where I think in all business, in all interactions, like that is where you really push and dig a little bit deeper and find out more about people. And so I find it just so boring. People are like, how is your day today? Or like you talk about the weather. I feel like we can do that.
Please,
anytime.
Let's
talk about And so I love the fact that you were open to and willing to dig deep and tell us about your brit-pop fascination. And if Paul Weller, I know he's a listener of this podcast. So Paul, Jeff is a big fan. If you wouldn't mind sending him some signed paraphernalia, send it to Windfall Cider at whatever.com.
Yeah, exactly. Jeff at windfallcider.ca.
There you go. There you go. Let's talk about this unique relationship. Talking about relationships, it isn't often that I sit down with business partners that are also partners. Dynamically, how? Dynamically, why? Why are we sitting here discussing this product? Why are you guys in business together? Why does this work when majority of society says, never do that. Don't do that.
I would say, entrepreneurship is incredibly challenging. Marriage is incredibly challenging. Everything that people tell you they're telling you the truth. And there's been so many instances in which I'm like, yeah, no, they told me this would be this hard, and it is this hard. Being in partnership with my husband in business is an incredibly vulnerable road every day for both of us. And I think that's the part that caught me off guard. I thought that I didn't expect that vulnerability to come up once again in the business side of thing. I thought that it was going to be taken care of in the marriage side of things. And it's like, okay, that came up there. We're good. We're partners. We're in trust. This is good. I didn't expect it to show up one more time. I think that was the most surprising part of the last year of us being in business together, was being in this constant place of vulnerability with somebody that you already know, and it really caught us off guard. It's been so rewarding though in so many ways, because you get to rebuild that trust and that faith for one another every day, and it's not for the faint of heart.
Yeah,
for sure.
Do you sorry, finish your thought.
No. It takes two strong people. Like, it definitely, I think that's why we can sit here and why we will be able to be sitting here in 5 years as partners in life and in business is because we have two very strong personalities, and we can stand for ourselves, for each other, and for oneself in front of one another.
That's important. Do you find, Jeff, for yourself that going through this process, you've learned different strengths and weaknesses that you have personally, and also you've seen Nathaly kind of step up into roles that maybe you didn't see her populate before, just as quote unquote your partner, and now as your business partner, are you saying like, wow, I didn't know she had this in her, or this stuff you knew all this time?
No, there's layers upon. It's like peeling back the onion skin and discovering deeper and deeper layers that you didn't know were there. And a couple of examples. I mean, like in a marriage that also happens to be running a business. Let's say in a business that also happens to be a marriage. Like in a business, there's going to be disagreements. There have to be, or else you don't get anything done.
Right.
You know, somebody sees black, somebody sees white. You got to come to a gray area. It's figuring out which disagreements are business disagreements and which ones are marriage disagreements, and trying to make sure that they don't somehow synthesize into each other. If you get what I'm saying,
Yeah, 100%.
That's the tricky thing. If there is a disagreement with regards to the business,
Where is this coming
it's
from?
not a personal disagreement.
Right.
It's not a marriage disagreement. It has to stay within the business. So that's one trick. But peeling back the layers, Nathaly, as I'd gotten to know her as we were courting, and
which still happens, by the way.
Every day.
Yeah, Nathaly, one of the first jobs that she held down, the first jobs that she did amazingly well, was working in a clothing store in Victoria called Outlooks. And that would probably have been the very first time that I met Nathaly, because I went into Outlooks probably about 14 years ago and bought some clothes.
Oh my God.
At the behest of a coworker of mine. So I ran into Nathaly and having bought some clothes. But flash forward to 4 years ago when her and I first met, and going over to Victoria and meeting her old work friends at her old workmates at Outlooks, and they commented on Nathaly having been the most amazing salesperson that they'd had.
Oh wow.
And referred to Nathaly as the Latin assassin.
I believe it.
When they couldn't sell something, they sent the Latin assassin in.
Yeah, they're like, "Where is she at? Bring her out. Bring her to the back.
Bring her out.
We need the closer."
Yeah.
So that was something that I'd heard about, but not necessarily seen working.
Okay.
In this role, I get to see Nathaly, the salesperson, and again, send in the Latin assassin to sell some cider, and it'll get done.
Is that dynamically how it works right now? Talking very kind of fundamentals of the business. I'm only assuming here, and feel free to interject. With your background, Jeff, being more of the financial side of things, are you managing the books and making sure that everything is tidy with that? And is Nathaly more of out on the ground, grinding, getting listings and getting people trying the product, or does it vary day to day?
Well, Jeff definitely takes on the financial side of things. I mean, it just comes very naturally to him. His mind it's wired that way. I'm pretty good at it, just not as good. So I do follow his lead. I got to keep my receipts.
I still need those receipts.
Where are those damn receipts? Where are those damn receipts?
I know I have them. They're here. Just like give me a deadline. They'll be there.
Yeah.
But because we're on that first year and that founder stage, we have really been doing everything, both of us. So like the sales, Jeff did an amazing job the last 5 months, really taking the leads on the sales side of things, while I wrapped up another project that I was working on the hospitality side of things as well. And now I'm back 100% with Windfall. So I will be taking on more of the on the ground, creating new accounts and developing new relationships. And
nice.
Yeah, just kind of reconnecting also with all those great people that I worked with over the last, 12 years. We chatted about this last time I saw you. And those people that I worked with when I was 25, when, I was a hostess and they were a bartender, they run a restaurant and they own a restaurant and they own 3 restaurants. And they're like, oh my God, yeah, if you're making cider, this is great. Let me try it. This is actually good.
Yeah.
I want to bring it.
That's a nice compliment. This is actually good.
And it's happened a lot.
For sure.
One of my favorite stories, and she's a veteran in the hospitality industry in Victoria, and she came and visited us on our launch date at Cider Fest, and she sheepishly came up to her booth, and we pour her a cider, and we were so excited because she was going to try it, and this is kind of a big deal, and she tries it, and she's like, "Oh my God, I'm so happy this is actually good."
Yeah, because how many times?
I was so worried.
Yeah, how many times do we have friends that come to us like, "Hey, you gotta try this salsa, man, and it's the best salsa. I'm selling salsa now. You should try this salsa." You're like, "Dude, that tastes like the worst salsa I've ever had."
Where
in my
did you
life.
get those tomatoes? That
Yeah.
totally sucks.
Yeah, so it's nice that then your crew, your power circle, are saying like, "Yeah, this is actually good."
Yeah, and it's
And they were like, "Oh God, thank God."
Yeah,
I was
'cause
so worried when you guys were putting this stuff into production that I was going to have to tell you that it was crap or lie to you.
or lie
Yeah.
to you. Yes, I'm just so glad I don't have to lie.
Do you feel like this comes up sometimes in the podcast, and I don't know what it is about us, and I say us as a collective, being Canadians. Why can't we? Let's just say, for example, you guys make Windfall 4.0, and it's like a high octane alcohol, but it is not that great. And I try it, and I'm like, it's not that. Why can't I tell you that? Is it because I'm not comfortable enough to tell you that, or is it because I don't respect you guys? What is it? Why can we not? Even at restaurants, when people say come over, they quality check you.
Yeah.
And you and Jeff, you and I are having a meal, and we're both like, God, this is like, it's cold, it's underseas. And they come over, and Natalie comes over, she's like, how is everything, guys? Like, it's fantastic.
It's
It's
fantastic.
great.
Loved
Thank you. I think overall, like 95% of people don't like confrontation.
True.
And I think it really, to me, boils down to that. If somebody doesn't, if you don't like confrontation, you're not going to be able to say, you're not going to create a conflict. You're going to do everything in your power to avoid that conflict. And that quality check, you want to tell them what they want to hear, or what you think they want to hear, and you don't want to create the confrontation because you don't know what he or she is going to say, and it might be a conflict. You want to avoid it. So I think ultimately it's just people don't like to create conflict.
Right. Well,
ultimately.
let's potentially create some conflict. Shall we
Let's
try the
some
product?
cider. Yeah,
Absolutely.
let's do it. Yeah.
So
let's do
bear
it.
with us as we crack open some cans. I'll let you guys kind of dictate what we are going to try first or second.
Should we do jackpot first?
Yeah, start with
So do you want to tell us a bit what we're drinking?
Absolutely. Windfall Jackpot is. Can I tell you the story about how we got to this?
Go. Yeah, do it.
I'd been making cider at home it's going on like 8 years now. And just like any home fermenter, if it's beer, if it's cider, if you're not 100% serious about it, you're making like 4 batches of 20 liters a year.
Right.
So some of my ciders were good, some of my ciders were bad. But we had a trip to Mexico City about 4 years ago now, maybe 3 years ago, during which I had a taste of Spanish Sidra for the very first time.
Okay.
Which is an absolutely amazing beverage. But what that did for me, having been a Canadian guy that thought cider had to be sweet, introduced me to the fact that cider can be dry and should be dry to ultimately be pairable with food. So that's what sort of let the light off and started the journey in the first place. Nathaly had tried Spanish Sidra before. She's Venezuelan, but Galician by background, which is one of the cider producing regions in northern Spain.
Cool. I had no idea.
Yeah, Galicia,
Asturias,
as well as the Basque region. Asturias drinks more cider per capita than anywhere else on the planet.
I think I actually heard that not that long ago. Someone was talking about Spanish. I was like, Spanish cider? I'm used to like Irish cider.
Yeah.
you
Well,
know?
and then another neat thing about cider is how insular the cider producing regions are. Like the Spanish don't know that the French make cider. The French don't know that the English make cider. So, is it South Africa?
South Africa makes a lot of cider.
Makes a ton of cider. Their style is more alcopop-like, but they love their cider. But that's one thing that got us really excited about the cider world was how can we grow a brand and help the category grow and raise the profile of cider, not only in BC but in Canada, and create a conversation in which we tell people, hey, there's a lot of other countries that make cider and their styles are different, and just like wine. So really, that got us really excited about cider. How can we elevate the profile of cider in Canada and create a conversation that aligns more with how we talk about wine or beer?
Did you want to add more to that?
Well, to carry on from that, like we'd originally wanted to emulate the Spanish style and make a Sidra. That was the original plan, but then we realized very quickly that if we did that, A, nobody would buy it. B, we'd be bankrupt very, very quickly because it's a very peculiar taste.
Okay.
And it's an acquired taste, just like a sour beer would be. You don't introduce somebody that's used to drinking lagers to all of a sudden to drinking a sour beer. So that's where the whole creating Jackpot came about. Is we wanted to make a cider that was balanced, not too acidic, not too tannic, seriously dry, pairable with food, that brought people back to cider.
Okay.
So that's what Jackpot's all about. It's something that can appeal to wine drinkers that don't like cider.
It's interesting you say that because, admittedly, I'm not a drinker. Haven't had a drink for 3 years actually this month, and not because of like I have an issue with it. Just because I found when I did drink, I was doing it out of social obligation for so many years. So now when I do have any kind of alcohol, it's to like taste it and see what it's like. So Lindsay, my partner, drinks wine, so I'll always have a sip of her wine. And to your point, Jeff, when I just put this to my nose, this is me being descriptive for you guys. Like I did, like to me, it smells like very floral, almost liken it to like a very floral, fruity white wine on the nose.
Yeah.
And then when I drank it, it's different for me than other ciders that I used to drink, like like a Magners or like an Angry Orchard, some of your bigger kind of macro producers. Not as effervescent either. Like there's slight bubbles, but not a ton.
Yeah.
And I also find it, if I was going to drink a pint of this, I feel like it'd be a lot less filling. It feels like the body of the taste stays, but it's not heavy. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
By the way, I have no idea what I'm talking about, but I'm trying to be as descriptive as I can be.
You did a great job.
And I'd like you not to drink a pint. I'd like you to drink it in a wine glass.
Oh yeah? Okay.
Yeah,
See,
absolutely.
Good to know.
Yeah, that's another thing that we want to get across as a brand, is that cider needs to be looked at very, very differently and in a category of its own. So to talk about those wine drinkers that don't like cider, we'd like to bring them along with the journey. Beer drinkers that don't like cider as well. Same process. And people that just got turned off of cider because of it being too sweet.
Yeah.
And alcopoppy like. So bring them along. But cider has, for some reason in this country, in most pubs and most restaurants, is served like a beer. So it's served in a pint glass, or it's served in a, what's the other?
Sleeve.
Yeah. A sleeve glass. And that lets all of the aromas escape out of the top.
Oh, okay.
And doesn't trap any like a tulip glass would.
Right.
So to be sure, our cider served in a 6-ounce wine glass or a stemless wine glass tastes completely different and much, much better. So treating cider more like a wine than like a beer, I think, is the first step.
Okay.
And also avoiding all of the same issues that most people have come across. Well, the serving issues that approach cider. Cider has to be served in a glass with ice and with a slice of lime, a la Strongbow.
Right.
that was done, and that style of serving was done in the UK simply to sell more cider.
Yeah.
Put a lot of glass,
a lot of ice, less product, and sell it for eight pounds, and your margins are crazy.
Put a slice of lime in it so it tastes better.
Yeah.
So cider should be able to stand on its own inside of a nice little wine glass.
Cool.
And that's what Jackpot's all about. Jackpot is 12 different apples, all dessert apples. So the same sort of apples that you'd find in a grocery store: Granny Smith, Spartan, Macintosh, Red Delicious, Golden Delicious. 12 different apples chosen for specific characteristics. You get a lot of acidity from Granny Smith. You get a lot of aromatics from Spartan, from Macintosh, and you get a little bit of tannins from a Red Delicious. So they're all in there. 100% juice, no water, no concentrate, no apple concentrate to back sweeten. We aimed for a cider that didn't taste like apples. And you described that it tastes more like a wine. That's what I was after.
Right.
A good cider should not taste like apples, just like a good wine shouldn't taste like grapes.
Yeah.
So that's one category. One perception that we're trying to blow up is that cider shouldn't taste like apples.
And what has that education been like? Has it been received well? Are people going, oh, what? Like, this shouldn't taste like apples? Or are people like, oh, yeah, we knew that?
Well, I blow people's minds every day. Like, people, they don't understand the fermentation process. They understand that to make wine, you have to ferment grapes, but they don't associate that with cider. For some reason, people associate cider more to a beer. So they expect that it's brewed and that there's heat
Right,
involved. So
right.
when you tell them, no, we just press and, we pitch your yeast and then it does his crazy thing and we have cider. They're like, what? What is that?
You guys are like the new cider ambassadors for the cider industry, like
Yeah.
educating people.
So the education has been great. Like most people are just fascinated with it. They're like, what does that mean? So why doesn't it taste like apples? And I was like, well, it doesn't taste like apples because all that flavor is gone after fermentation. Like yeast
Right.
is going to eat
Eat it all up,
and
yeah.
you have something else. They're like, oh, okay.
That's amazing.
That's amazing. So they start drinking it more like a wine, which has really, it's what we ultimately want to do. We want people to drink cider more like a wine.
When you guys are saying that, then obviously in your minds and in your business plan, this is kind of where you want to see this brand, maybe this category go. Who then are you brewing this for? When you guys sat down and you
Fermenting.
thought about, sorry, thank you. Pardon me. Yeah. See, there you go. Wow. Pavlovian slip. My subconscious just came out there. You're rewriting my subconscious. When you're fermenting this product, and you're doing your branding and thinking of your name and all those things, who in your mind's eye is your consumer? Who are you trying to attract? And ideally you want everyone enjoying this responsibly.
Yeah, absolutely.
But who do you guys think right now, as we sit here today, who is going to enjoy this product the most in your eyes?
Well, I think that 22 to 35-year-old professional that enjoys it is starting to learn about beer. It maybe started drinking wine because they liked it, but they are kind of intimidated and they really like beer and they want to try something else. That professional that wants to learn about new beverages, that is perhaps even a little bit more health conscious. Cider is naturally gluten free, so that definitely puts us in that kind of like that Whole Foods market. So that this cider is for the people that want to grow their knowledge about beverage.
Would you agree?
Yeah, people that want to explore a new beverage category.
Right.
And somebody that enjoys a good meal, somebody that enjoys different flavors that they haven't tasted before, somebody that wants to experience cider in a new light, I would say. And it does, like the 25 to 35-year-old, that's the millennial category. Great. But also beyond that, like 35 to 45 plus, people that want to discover something different, without a doubt. And there's a quote that goes around in the marketing world, and that your biggest competitor is the uneducated consumer.
Okay.
And in a lot of ways, if you're a craft beer producer 10 years ago, your biggest competitor was that person that just went to Molson Canadian,
And
Molson
thought that was
Export,
beer.
Yeah.
I thought that was a good beer.
Yeah.
Moosehead,
Yeah. Yeah.
out in the Maritimes,
Yeah.
and wasn't then willing to accept that there could be different flavors. There could be a really good Pilsner brewed with specific hops. There could be an IPA. There could be a sour beer. Ultimately, like, that was their biggest competitor then, the uneducated consumer. Same thing for cider. If it's Windfall Cider, if it's Nomad, if it's Dominion, our biggest competitor isn't each other. It's the uneducated consumer. And getting them on board with what cider could be and should be, and then allowing them to experience flavors that they haven't done before. And that's getting into the Spanish Sidra style, which there are a couple of good producers here in BC that are making an excellent Sidra, Nomad being one of them. Keeving. Keeving is a French style that lends itself to a very funky, in some cases, but also a very sweet cider. That's a style that people are going to drink after they've come on board with cider for the first time.
Huh,
so you're not going to get somebody that drinks growers appreciating a Spanish Sidra or a Keeved cider all of a sudden. So that's what, Jackpot's a gateway cider.
Yeah, it's the gateway fermented beverage. I like that. I saw you guys just this past weekend at an event here locally. First time, Jeff, that I met you, and we shared a few words, which was great. And I noticed that at this event there were other cideries, other people selling cider, competitors, you could say, or people in your industry, in your market. What is that like for you guys? Overall, and what I mean by that question is, do you find people are operating in silos? Because I know in different industries, and I will say hospitality holistically can do that at times to the detriment of the industry, I feel, whether it be chefs not sharing or owners not sharing or restaurateur, whatever the situation may be. Do you feel like the cider industry here locally, it has that stigma attached to it, meaning everyone's kind of staying in their own kind of silo, or are you guys open to sharing and helping and growing each other and the industry as a whole here locally?
Do you want to take that?
Yeah. Yes and no.
Okay.
People are not operating in silos because there certainly is amongst the greater cider community a lot of sharing. Like that event that we were at this weekend, Cedar Cider was there, which is a cider producer from the Valley. They make excellent cider. We have great conversations with those guys about what they're doing, their exploration of barrel aging cider, their exploration of using different yeasts, that sort of jazz. So amongst individual cider producers, there's not a lot of siloing. There's a lot of sharing of ideas. The cider industry as a whole breaks into two different silos by necessity, courtesy of taxation.
Oh, okay.
There's land-based cideries, and these are the cideries that do have land up to at minimum 2 hectares of land, and they grow their own apples, versus what we're doing as a commercial cidery. We don't grow our own apples. We want to harvest and grow relationships with farmers, with apple orchardists, and buy their juice and turn that into cider. That's where the big delineation and the big silo effect comes in, because the land-based cideries get a much preferential treatment on the taxation side than we do.
Yeah.
So to that, there is a fragmentation in the industry, and it's kind of the us versus them
Right.
kind of
Right.
silo, and that can be perceived between the people that own land and people that don't, like us. Like for us, when we started this project, we thought there was that point where we're like, oh wow, we found out about the taxation. It was like, well, this is steep.
Yeah.
Let's go buy a farm.
Yeah.
We thought about that for like 30 seconds, and we realized that it's two very difficult jobs to do side by side, and we were already new to the cider world, and we had a lot to learn there, and we knew that, and going into the farm world was really steep, and realizing that the farmers need more people buying their product. And I am really happy supporting and developing relationships with existing farmers and developing that and helping them grow their business than me getting into the business.
Right.
It made little sense, and it has been so rewarding to go out there and meet this incredibly passionate. Farmers are incredible humans. Like they are
amazing.
so selfless. Like
Yeah.
they're like I don't even they're on a category of their own. They're like caregivers in a way. They are so selfless in what they do, and we have met some incredible people in this journey, and I'm happy to continue supporting them. And we're at the point now where us purchasing juice from these farmers has led them to plant more apples and varietals that we want, and cider varietals that would be more beneficial. So we're on this path now where they benefit, we benefit, and 5 years we'll have great cider apples from some of our producers. They're like, okay, great, you guys are in business, and I like the way that you're doing business, and I can see a sustainable growth for my apple crop, and I'd rather grow apples than grow peppers for Costco, so let's do that.
Being the devil's advocate, will Windfall get to a point where it would make sense financially to buy land, or are you guys so adamant on this model being the model that you carry on till the days that Windfall gets purchased by some big conglomerate and you guys retire to Mexico?
I don't know. You mentioned Angry Orchard.
Yeah.
And Angry Orchard is a company that was created from Boston Beer. So Samuel Adams started that company. What they've done and what they've experienced is the fact that they have to secure their own apple supply. So they have necessarily become orchardists to secure the right apples for their not necessarily their macro product, but certainly their micro products, which are all very, very good. So never dismiss it, never say never. There could come a time, say 5-10 years from now, where we feel the need to secure our own land, to secure our own trees, to secure our own supply of good apples.
Right. So out of necessity, perhaps, but
Perhaps.
Yeah.
right.
We'll see where it goes.
Yeah.
Let's talk about challenges, because again, I know the industry pretty intimately, and I know there are a lot of challenges, especially here in BC. We're very unique to many other parts of this country and the world in regards to where and when and how and why you can sell your product. So talk to us about that. Talk to us about any challenges you faced thus far that you found either frustrating or maybe even hacks that you found to get around those challenges that listeners maybe be able to use themselves if they're thinking about diving into fermented products or brewed products and selling it commercially.
Well, the first thing is BC real estate.
Yeah.
Yeah. When we started, this journey, the picture was that we wanted to emulate the brewery model. So we wanted our tasting room. We wanted a production space. We wanted a place that we could reach our consumer right then and there. We spent 9 months looking for a location. 9 months, and that, I mean, you've been through that. You don't get into a lease negotiation without it being 2 months, $5,000, and a lot of time. So multiply that times 4. It was 9 months of just like this up and down, and financially it was it definitely cost us, but the time, and we quickly realized that it could be 2 years before we found a location, and 3 years before we had cider out in the market. So that was something that it was a really hard pill to swallow after the last lease fell through, and we're like, I don't want to wait 3 years. If I have to wait 3 years, I know that I'm not gonna want to do this in 3 years.
Exactly.
I don't have the stamina. So we looked at alternative ways, and the brewery world has gotten really creative in that world, and they've gone into the contract production side of things.
Yeah.
So we thought, well, maybe this is something we can explore, and that's what we've done in creating our brand. Was that we've contracted our production.
Okay,
so we
great.
basically rent a space out of an existing brewery, and we have all access to our cider whenever we want, and we get to create our product while working and developing our brand and reaching our customers and accounts.
There you go. It's a pretty good hack.
And contract production, in some cases, contract production is frowned upon because it's effectively a recipe being made by somebody else. Mm-hmm. I source my apples. I get my apples pressed. I arrange for the juice to be shipped from one place or a processor in the valley to another, and that's the brewer that does have a winery license. Can I mention names?
Yeah, go for it.
It's Central City.
Yeah.
So I ship our product there. I have my own yeast, which I've procured, and I get from Guelph, Ontario, a great place called Escarpment Labs.
Shout out Escarpment.
And they're terrific. But this is my product. It's not a recipe. And that's an important delineation between some other products that are made like that out there.
Yeah.
And we do have small batches that are sitting at a winery right now. And I've got my hands on those things.
I bet.
Nobody's business. I'm going out to visit my fermentations tomorrow in the valley to make sure everything's coming along
We're like
okay.
little cider squirrels. We have
you
little
just like little
stashes.
pockets everywhere.
Yeah.
As you're describing it to me, and I've known of contract brewing before, obviously on different scales with the company I worked with. Actually, it was Moosehead that I was employed by for almost 6 years. They did a lot of contract brewing for big companies, and it was a big part of their business. It's almost like, as you were describing it, Jeff, I pictured a really high-end restaurant, and the head chef is out on the floor and engaging with the guests, right? But he has his team back there, the sous chef, for example, executing his recipes. When that dish comes out, that's his product, right? It's just he's having someone else who's very, very good at what they do. They know what they're doing. They have all the systems down, and they're just producing it for him.
And it's been great working with an established space. It has saved us. We've gotten to do the learning with a lot less risk as well. It's nice
to mitigate some of that risk.
Yeah, operate a 20,000 liter tank when somebody there telling you how to do it, rather than like, here's the tank, where's the manual? Like,
right.
It's great. So you get to it's really helped us.
But it's the one thing that, and the real estate. A landlord is very leery of a startup.
Oh God, yeah.
I remember conversations that we've had with landlords, and they're the deep down lease negotiations. So have you ever made cider on a commercial basis before? No. Are you selling cider now? No.
Yeah. It's funny you say that though, and it's just it's disheartening a bit, and we laugh because that is the reality. But it's just there has to be a way. Someone has to give someone a break. I remember
it's finding that enlightened landlord that's willing to take that risk because they're a business partner. At the end of the day, because we've got product in the market right now, because we're developing a P&L, profit and loss, we'll be able to show somebody an income statement at the end of, I guess it would be May, to show them 1 year worth of results. We've got a viable product in the marketplace, which then will lend itself to buying a farm, to buy or leasing a property in Vancouver and creating that tasting lounge with a product that's already in the market, as opposed to having to start that product in the market after you've then built that facility, which is very, very expensive.
If there's anyone listening right now and they have the perfect space for you, they're like, man, I want to give these guys, are you in a space right now where you would, again, hypothetical here, magic wand situation, if someone did reach out, they're like, man, I have a space for you guys.
Yeah,
definitely.
That enlightened developer.
Yeah.
Yes, we'd love to talk to them.
I would. I mean, there's there's so many ways that I can reach our consumer, and in-store tastings are so incredibly powerful. Like it's a great way to reach your consumer, but there is something to be said for having that bricks and mortar. And I would love to one day see that, see your name and have a place where people can come and we can get to know them more, and they get to know our product and we get to explore a little bit more. So it would be something I would love to do.
Yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult to affect a brand holistically, like what it is outside of it being on a shelf or on a table in a restaurant, where someone can come into your space, like coming into your home.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
This is what we're all about. Yeah. So how do you guys right now, with the limited abilities to do that, how do you affect that communication? Is it through the branding? Is it through the coloring, the very whimsical imagery? Like, what are you guys using right now to speak to your consumers about what Windfall is?
You talk
this.
Yeah.
A lot.
Podcast.
A lot of this and a lot of talking. And like you said, a lot of relationship building.
Right.
Having been in the restaurant side of things, it's talking to my bartenders. Like if I'm selling, we're across the street at Bells and Whistles. You know, those guys know our story inside out. Because we sit there and we'll have a beer and we'll tell them this is why, this is the how, and this is how we do it, and this is why we're doing it. So that you create little ambassadors everywhere you go.
And we were featured on it was Ross McLaughlin.
Yep.
At CTV, he did a short
amazing
piece on craft cider in the province, and we did a piece with him. So that's introducing our brand,
right,
and letting more people know about it than otherwise us talking about it in the street. I write a column for What's Brewing.
Oh, cool.
What's Brewing magazine about cider, and I've got my second published column coming out this, I guess, very, very soon, probably at the beginning of December. So that's how we're engaging with the overall community and talking about things. And one of the pillars for our sales strategy when we first got into the market was to go to the breweries, the tasting lounges that offer cider as an alternative that isn't beer. And we're on tap in a number of establishments right now. Strathcona Brewing has been a great partner. So people that go in there that try their beer then get to try our cider. And that's a good way to get out to the beer geeks of the world.
Yeah,
and
I should definitely put you in touch. I should definitely put you in touch with a good buddy of mine, Josh Vanderhyde. He owns Fieldhouse Brewing in Abbotsford.
I love that space.
Great space. They've done a great job there.
They nailed it.
He's a very smart guy, very turned on guy. He knows what he's doing.
I would love to talk to him about that, because before I visit the taste room, I mean, they were all over Instagram. Of course, my Instagram being, I'm a beer and wine person, so it's polluted with Fieldhouse, and they had that feel, and that it was a very defined and carefully curated imagery and feel. And I was kind of nervous of going into the tasting room, because I build like little ideas in my head of what it's going to be like, and then I get disappointed. And I walked in and I sat down and I had my beer, and I'm like, this is exactly like they pictured it. And he made me so happy. Yeah. Like they nailed it.
Have you been, Jeff?
Yeah. It's terrific.
Yeah. I can't say anything right now, but just wait. It's going to get even better
Oh,
for
I
Field
love
House.
it.
So it'd be really cool to get you
I
guys
love it.
aligned sooner than later
It's just
because
that-
Josh and his team are doing some amazing things out in the valley, and I feel like it would be like a very symbiotic relationship. So I'd love to put you guys in touch.
Thank you.
Can we talk about though a little more in depth? We talked about drinking it and what we can expect when we drink it and how we should drink it in regards to the glassware, etc. But tell me and the listeners more about what Windfall is. We heard a bit about the story and kind of how it started, but like I'm looking at the can, I was looking on the website today and I was so intrigued by the art and like what is that and like why are the glutes on the people like so defined? Like that guy with like his bum is just like so defined. And why is there a giraffe with these like antlers that seemingly like stem from the tree? It sounds like I'm on an acid trip right now, but if you haven't looked at their website, guys, or at least bought their product, go to their website and check it out because the imagery truly is whimsical. So tell me about what are you trying to convey with things like that? Like what is Windfall at the core?
So when you created a brand, you have to. It's all about telling a story.
Premium.
Yes. So we wanted to develop and grow a premium brand, and when the branding exercise started, we wanted to create very different ways and avenues to continuously tell the story, and we wanted to create a world of windfalls. And that so from there came the idea of working with an illustration, and there was a bit of a hack as well, talking about how do we create something that is going to save us money in the long run.
Right.
You know, we're going to have 10 different ciders. Every time you go back into studio for production, that costs money.
Exactly.
So what can we do now that's going to save us money in the long run? And a long illustration was a good answer. So we engaged with an illustrator out of Chicago. His name is Armando Bebe. If you're into illustration, go to his Instagram, Armando.
Oh, this is
Bebe.
beautiful. His work here is amazing.
And
it truly is whimsical. It's amazing.
His stuff is awesome. We caught him just at a really sweet spot before he blew up. Like he just
Okay.
had a solo show in Chicago like last week. He's done some commission work for Absolute that
Absolute
it's painted
Vodka.
for
Wow.
Absolute Vodka. This is like on Tribeca in New York. Like it's like really, really amazing. So what he did, he did a great job of capturing our story. We gave him little stories that led us to starting Windfall and little stories about cider, but mostly like stories that happened to us in this journey.
Yeah.
And he took them on like.
The defined glutes.
Yeah. No, but did that not stand out to you? Like,
Our
I'm
daughter.
a very confident guy. I can admit when another man has strong glutes. And I was scrolling through the website and I was like, that is a very defined behind.
Yeah.
And he's doing a self-portrait too.
Yes.
So he's very self-aware.
Self-aware.
He's
Not
self-aware.
narcissistic or
No, he's
egotistical,
very-
but self-aware.
Very,
I like
very
that.
self-aware. So in creating the brand, you have decisive moments when you're developing your brand, and what was the look that we wanted to go with. And there was about 3 different directions we could take, and nothing was really jiving. And we left one of the meetings and I came home and I had this flashback to me growing up, and my parents had a print of Hieronymus Bosch, the Garden of Earthly Delights,
Okay.
sitting in our living room that my brother, sister, and I probably spent hundreds of hours dissecting. You know, people listening will know. The ones that know, they know. And it's just really imaginative, almost dark but whimsical world. And in our next meeting, I was kind of nervous because I am creative, but I'm not a creative designer. So I had like this direction, and I said, guys, how about if we explore this? And I slide it, I had the painting, and the fellow, the creative director, looked at it and he had this look on his face. I'm like, oh my God, I'm such an idiot.
Right.
Talk about being vulnerable. I felt it was such a vulnerable place for me. Like here I am bringing this thing completely out of left field.
The group that we're working with is 123 West.
Okay,
They're
yeah, I know.
located
Yeah,
in
I know
Mount
them,
Pleasant.
yeah.
They're fantastic.
Yeah.
But Jeff, the fellow that took on the lead,
He's the creative director. Yeah.
director. He lit up when Nathaly slid this to him.
But it was this
because
moment.
in most cases, when they're putting together a brand for a company, the company opts for the most conservative option.
Oh, okay.
And we basically said,
the opposite of that.
roll with this.
How about
and they got
this?
very excited about it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Very cool. I
And
like
that was a moment really where the branding cracked, like where it cracked open.
Yeah.
And this had been like probably 3 months of us, chipping away at it and creating copy and choosing our direction. And that was the moment where the brand became what it is, and it became personal, and it became us, and it became real. The moment, like, he knew who was going to do this illustration, like, and from there, talking to Armando and developing this, when the illustration came out, it was Windfall. We've created a world. And
Okay, so Jeff's past me now. I'm guessing these are 3 other.
yeah, these are future. So these are future brands of Windfall. So different ciders.
So we have the Hail Mary, which is a rosé cider.
Yeah. So Hail Mary will be launching in spring of next year.
Rosé is huge.
The leggy apple.
Leggy apple baby lady.
Apple baby. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we have Dark Horse, which is dark cider. So what can you tell me about that?
So yeah, that's we haven't decided that, and we probably will. That probably
Those
be
are just
swapped.
theoreticals.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
To sort of like give an idea. Jeff came up with these just to show us like where the brand could go as we come up with and launch more flagships.
Yeah.
But yeah, the idea of Windfall was to create this world in which people can immerse themselves in cider-wise. Like how. When you discover a beverage or when you discover a brand, it can really take you away, and it's going to take you on a journey. So we were aware of that, and we thought, well, let's take them in our journey. Let's create a journey for them of knowledge and fun and whimsy. And I mean, cider is supposed to be fun.
Yeah, I think alcohol holistically is supposed to be fun.
It's supposed to be fun. It should be fun.
Not too serious, but respected.
Yeah.
But fun.
Yeah, and sophisticated. And also our brand, it's an urban brand. That's something that's very unique to us, and that ties into us not having a farm. We are an urban brand, and we really wanted to bring cider back, to bring it into the urban centers, because that's where it's being consumed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so we wanted to create a brand that resonated with people in the urban centers.
I like that. I'm going to ask, only because I'm intrigued to try it. I think you called it sweater weather.
Weather.
Which is a bit of a tongue twister. Yeah. But while you're pouring that, Nathaly, if I may, I'm going to go off my little diatribe here for just a moment. Can I help you with that?
Yeah.
Let me see. No, maybe not. I'm going to have to put down a mic. Jeff's on it. Okay, so this podcast is called the Half a Dozen Hospitality Podcast. So I have for you guys, just things are going all over the place here. We got alcohol flying. We got mics dropping. So yeah, where was I going here? So it's called the Half a Dozen Hospitality Podcast. So I have for you guys 2 questions that I ask every single guest. I'm putting you on the spot here a little bit.
Brit-pop.
Yeah, exactly. Paul Weller. I've never actually asked the what is your blank in regards to genre of music. I was kind of proud of myself for that one after almost 50 episodes. No, so what I have for you guys is the Windfall, or the Nathaly and Jeff half a dozen have-tos. So stay with me here. I need from you 3 each. You can go back and forth like a tennis match here. Mm-hmm. Things you've experienced in your life, whether it be a trip, a book you've read, a drink you've drank, a meal you've eaten, a song you've heard, a museum you've been to, food related or not, something you've done in your life that you feel our listeners have to do themselves. Mm-hmm. I feel like we should go ladies first.
Yeah. That's a great things that you must do. Take a solo trip.
Solo trip. I like that.
Solo trip. Just you wherever, like, choose a place. The loneliest, the better. Where you don't speak the language, where where there's no people. Like, I would start there.
Cool. Solo Good one. Trip. Jeff, over to you.
Order bistecca fiorentina.
Mm-hmm.
Say that again. Bistecca. So I'm guessing it's meat.
Bistecca fiorentina.
Yes.
In your favorite Italian restaurant.
Oh, okay.
Just a great big porterhouse.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
grilled to
with,
perfection.
like, grilled to perfection.
Does Savio do that?
They do on occasion. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. They usually it's a special.
Okay,
yeah, it's
cool.
usually a special at Savio.
Amazing.
Yeah. Chinara also.
Oh, Chara?
They do
I've never
it,
been. I got to get in there.
Yeah, do before they're going to
they're
be
moving, right?
switching to... Yeah. So they're going to keep the 2 spaces, but
okay.
Chinara is going to be now Autostrada. So they're going to be changing the menu. As
the whole concept of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, back to you.
Back to me.
We can pause for a moment and talk about the sweater weather. That's dynamically for me completely different. Like even on the nose, I found it almost like almost a bit funkier.
It's different. That's for sure. To give you just a quick description, it's about 95% dessert apples.
Okay.
So the same apples that go into jackpot, 5% cider apples. So there is more tannic quality to the cider, as well as a slight astringency, fermented with a wine yeast as opposed to what we ferment jackpot with, which is a beer yeast. And it's hazy. So
I was going to say
this we introduced as a small batch. It's only 43 kegs that we introduced last week. And we wanted to riff on the season change here in BC as it turns from like really wonderful weather to really crap weather.
Yeah.
You can say it.
Mordor.
Yeah,
yeah. Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
So it goes into Mordor for the next 6 months. But just like riff on that, but also riff on hazy IPAs and hazy
have a little bit of
Pilsners
fun
that have come out and have a little
it's
whimsy
fun.
with
It
that.
is fun. Like visibly, it is very contrast to the jackpot, which is fun and interesting. And flavor wise, it's really, really good.
Yeah.
But you're not getting out of it. You got to give me another.
And I have it. One thing that you should definitely do, you should know what's happening with your finances at all times.
Ooh, I love that.
Yes. So this was for me, for the ladies. I am shocked every time that I have conversations with girlfriends of mine and of my age, mid 30s, and they have no idea. Or they're like, daddy's going to help them.
Yeah.
Or they don't know. They don't know what an
don't know.
RESP is. They don't know what a mutual fund is. And they're like, I don't know. Like, I don't take advantage of that. So it's you must. That's a must.
Yeah. My coach has me every day logging in and sending Lindsay, my partner, a full report on all of our bank accounts to the penny where we're at with debt, credit, all that stuff.
Awesome.
And it's, for me, I walk around so much more comfortable knowing like how much cash do I actually have?
How much can I actually spend? Because we don't, most people don't know. I mean, most people wouldn't be able to tell you how much is in their bank account. I can tell you maybe to a $20 range. But most people, I would say, is particularly, I wouldn't even say my age anymore, because I was having a conversation with somebody about this, and like even to my mom's age, where they don't know. So that, and I think that people don't understand how much it affects their everyday life.
Oh my God, yeah.
And it's just taking control of something that you can have control over, and it's just like a weight off your shoulders.
I'm sure you have a great hack on this, but I use mint.com. If you guys are out there listening, I have used
them. They're really good.
Mint.com, so it can amalgamate all of your bank accounts from different institutions in one platform, track all your spending. You can set your budgets. So if you're out there, guys, and you're looking for a system to start off with, I think Mint it's for me, it's so user friendly, and it's all there one screen.
And you can migrate everything in.
You can migrate everything in, which is really cool. Did you?
I've never heard of it.
Yeah, no, it's great. I need number 2 from you, sir, for your have-tos.
Go to Mexico City.
Yeah?
It's an amazing city. I mean, like we've been twice. And the very first time we were terrified of going there.
Okay.
Because we didn't. Well, it's
different.
a daunting city by any stretch. It's 36 million people living in one place, and Mexico not necessarily. Well, it's certainly not an all-in resort, an all-inclusive resort, but. The experience that we had there was fantastic, restaurant-wise, culture, architecture, just everything. It's an amazing place, and more people are going, and it's easy to get to from Vancouver. So go to Mexico City.
Yeah, I like that. Back to you, madam, for one more.
So taking control. This whole social media thing is getting a little crazy.
Okay, what do you mean?
People are like giving their time away to this thing. Like, it's just like wasting time away. I about 6 months ago deleted Facebook from my phone. Okay. So no Facebook on my phone, and that has been amazing. It's just like I don't have this time waster on my phone, and I still do Instagram because I do it for the business. Yeah. And it is a bit of a time suck, but I would say set strict limits to that, because we talk about the most valuable resource that we have, and it's time. Yeah. And we're giving it away for nothing.
Little dopamine hits.
Yeah, and that's it. And but he said, then you can't sleep at night because you're wide awake.
If I can share quickly, I just signed an agreement with a good friend of mine. If I don't stick to this, I owe him $1,000 every week. 90 minutes maximum on social media a week tracked on my phone. So the new,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
new
the
update,
app,
the
yeah,
screen
yes,
time. So
yes.
so yeah, my friend Sahil, who's actually sponsors this show. So shout out Sahil and Flux Socks. We both are holding each other accountable. So if he doesn't stick to his limit, he owes me his phone for a week. If I don't stick to my limit, I owe $1,000. So last week was my first week, and my time on Instagram was 24 minutes for the week.
Yeah.
Usually it's like 3 hours.
That's amazing.
So
But I think it's like that, just building that awareness. You know,
Yeah.
because once you realize that you're doing it,
yeah,
you're like,
exactly.
oh my God, that was out of control. Like,
Yeah.
I should tame that.
Last but not least.
Yes,
Yeah.
go for it.
This will flow out of Nathaly's comment about taking control of your finances. For a lot of people that have a dream of opening up a business, if it's a restaurant, a cidery, if it's developing an online brand for clothing or whatnot, it's a lot easier if you've got funds. If you don't, when you're working full time, get a line of credit, either secured or unsecured, but get that put in place while you're working, because it's something you're not going to be able to get when you're self-employed.
Yeah. Smart. Really good advice.
When you're working and you've got a solid paycheck coming in, build up your emergency funds. If you can't build up your emergency funds, get a line of credit.
Smart. Very smart. Very tangible. Very tangible. Have to. The last one I have for you guys should be a little bit easier. It's called the half a dozen haven't yet. So same idea, 3 from each of you, kind of a bucket list question. So 3 things that each of you have yet to experience in your lives that you want to, that you haven't yet experienced.
I want to learn how to play the guitar.
Guitar?
Yeah.
Well,
I have one in my attic next to yours.
Next to mine.
Do you play?
No.
Okay, so is Jeff's learned to play the guitar as well?
Yeah. Well, let's say yes.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be.
I certainly do not want to go to the grave without having learned how to play an instrument.
Can we put some accountability and a time frame on this? Because there's people that come on the show and they're going to run a marathon, or Paul from Just Tea. He's going to learn how to play piano with his daughter. So there's people that have these things, and it's great to say them out loud, but by when? 2020? And what are we talking? Like, you can play a Paul Weller song, or you can play you can play lead guitar in the Rolling Stones.
No, I just want to be able to like sit there when I have nothing to do
and just strum away and make it sound like music.
When I go camping, like I love
Yes.
that. Like my brother, he's like the guy that could teach himself how to do everything. It's so irritating.
So what's your deadline?
On 5 years.
5 years?
Come
5
on.
years.
I'm
You haven't heard what I have to say.
Okay.
But are we going for that? Natalie's ticked a box now, and I've ticked a box.
Yeah, you both ticked a box.
Okay,
Do you want to
good.
lead? Do you want to lead number 2?
Well, number 2 is learn how to speak Spanish. Because when we got married, I put that in my wedding vow.
And that was 4 years ago?
Well, that was
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Yeah,
And I gave myself 5 years. So I've got 3 years now to learn how to speak Spanish. And it won't be learning how to speak Spanish like Diego Rivera. It's going to be learning how to speak Spanish.
Right. Como se dice when?
Cuando?
Cuando, Jeff. Cuando.
Cuando, mi amor. Cuando.
Well, the Spanish is, I've got 3 years to
I've
go.
got 3 years.
Oh, 3 years.
That's ticking off. So
En español, 3 años?
3 años. Muy bien.
3 años.
Muy bien. Look at you.
Yeah.
You're there.
I'm out of my league.
You're definitely not.
So-
You can just...
So let's go like 5 years from now to be rudimentary guitar players.
Okay.
And I've got 3 years for the Spanish side of things.
Yeah,
We're going to check out. We're going to do how about this? We're going to do a podcast in 3 years, and I want you to do it
Spanish.
completely in Spanish, and we'll just put subtitles up there.
Good.
I'll ask the questions in English, and you'll answer them in Spanish.
That sounds awesome. You know, we have a child, and you know, there is. I want to instill that in her, and I want to open that side of her brain, and I want her to see that also as parents, we are doing things that we are not good at.
Yeah, you're challenged
and
by
we're
it, yeah.
challenged. We know we're challenging ourselves, and we're challenging ourselves, putting ourselves in a tricky,
Yeah,
vulnerable spot. So I want to pass that on to her.
I like that.
Yeah.
To you for number 2, then.
Oh, you know, I've been thinking a lot about this because of the kids' things. I have a debilitating fear of snakes.
Oh, interesting.
It's ridiculous. And I realized that I've been feeding that fear a lot by like, oh no, I don't walk on that side because there's the weird snake guy that's there.
There's a weird snake guy in town.
Oh, I really want Commercial Drive.
Okay, yeah. There's weird. Yeah, there's like a parrot guy I think too. I've
Yeah,
seen. around
yeah.
town.
He hangs out inside of the La Grota there.
Okay.
So I have this debilitating fear of snakes, and I'm seeing our daughter is in that place. She's 8, where she's trying to figure out who she is, and she's like picking all these things that she doesn't like or that she's afraid of, and she's like almost like faking these fears.
Oh, okay.
I'm like, oh, I have.
So what are you gonna do?
I have
then?
to tackle this snake fear. I don't know how I'm gonna do it. I don't know what that means.
Like
but
like hypnosis, and then like
I'm gonna
bath.
have to like be able to pet a big snake and
Oh, okay.
like hang out and be in the same room and like go into like the reptile snake room at the zoo, because I don't do that. Like I'll break into hives, and
we need to have cameras there for that for sure.
but yeah, we've been having this experience with Maxine with her fears, and I'm like, I'm gonna have to
lead by example.
Lead by example, because
Yeah.
I totally feed my fear of snakes, and she teases me about it. And
Oh no.
I'm like, yep, I'm gonna have to do it. So I want to no longer be afraid of snakes.
Como se dice snake?
Culebra.
Culebra.
I know. Wouldn't you be afraid of that?
No,
it just sounds like the devil.
Romantic. I like
Does
it.
it?
Yeah. Back to you.
Latin languages make everything sound like,
Yeah,
like
exactly.
a good meal.
Yeah, exactly. Back to you for your last one, Jeff.
You moved here from Halifax 12 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I moved here from Ontario 14 years ago. And as much as I had very good relationships with friends back in Ontario, and I've continued to have those friends and have those friendships, the whole crew of us are traveling to the Grey Cup this weekend to go and see it in Edmonton.
Oh, amazing.
Old friends from high school, old friends from university. Working on the relationships that I have here in Vancouver.
Okay.
I need to do a better job.
What does that look like for you?
Building up a better social network.
Like time?
Time, yeah, taking more time.
Consistency, yeah.
Taking more time to be with friends outside of, well, and this ties into the business that has a marriage inside of it.
Mm-hmm.
Taking time outside of our marriage, taking time outside of the business to nurture those friendships.
Yeah, they're so imperative.
Yeah.
And the city is tough. There's actually an article today on CBC about this guy who's grown up here and feels like he's the loneliest. I don't know if you guys saw this article on CBC.
No, yeah.
It's a really sad story. I was inspired to reach out to him. I didn't, but maybe I will. I should. And when I first moved here, I don't know if it resonates with you at all, Jeff, when you first moved here, but I found it really difficult to find that social circle where I could just like be accepted and like have dudes and buddies. And
Yeah.
and I'm blessed now to have a very small group of people that I could literally depend on no matter what I needed. But it took a long time. And I don't know what it is about this city and why it feels like it's different to, I mean, Nova Scotia has kind of like the maritime feel, like the story of like, oh, you come in anyone's home and they'll feed you and clothe you, whatever you need. And obviously Ontario is just so big, and so it's just a melting pot that everyone kind of just gets along and communicates and socializes. Whereas here it's...
Jeff has a theory about that.
Which one?
The bridges.
Oh, well, yeah, well, that's it. Like,
Yeah?
people that grew up in North Vancouver, their social group is in North Vancouver. The bridges that you have to travel across to are very like they're
Kind of symbolic.
as much as the Ironworkers Memorial
Right.
creates a very short distance for people to travel. It's still symbolic.
Right.
You got to travel across a bridge to go and visit your friends in North Vancouver. And we've had friends that lived close to us in East Vancouver that moved over to North Vancouver. We don't see them anymore.
We haven't seen them.
So it's
terrible.
The
North Van,
bridges
where parents
and
go to
the
die.
water
Yeah.
is a difficult thing to get across. But people grow up in their neighborhoods in North Vancouver, West Vancouver, Kitsilano, and they don't travel to those other neighborhoods to visit people, to visit friends. So it becomes very insular. And then they all go to the same universities.
Yeah.
Right.
Like UBC
Right
or
here.
Simon
Yeah.
Fraser.
Yeah.
You keep your same friends.
That's a whole other podcast, but that's
Yeah,
a great
it is.
philosophy, great theory, pardon me. Back to you, Nathaly, for your last one.
You took away the friendship one.
It's a business thing.
I know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not a marriage thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. This last year has been a super challenging year, like where the business has taken everything. I need to carve out more time for myself. Yeah. I need more time, like time for myself and my body and my mind, and keeping that mental strength. where it should be,
Mhm.
because definitely there's that it takes a lot
Oh my God, yeah.
to do what we're doing, and it became really apparent this summer where I'm like, okay, no, I need time for me.
Mhm.
I need time to keep my mind healthy and my body healthy and prioritize. So I have to prioritize me so that my family can be the best that it can be.
Yeah, it's interesting how we do that so often, where we try to be so many things for so many people, but if we're not taking care of ourselves, how are we really showing up for those people? And yeah, I empower you to do that, as I'm sure Jeff does, as well as your business partner and your partner. I'm sure he's thinking in his head, go for it. Like, go do yoga, go climb a mountain, do those things. And it's so important to have those partners that support you with
Absolutely.
that.
But don't try to get me to go to yoga.
I want you there.
Spanish yoga.
Yeah.
There you go. We're just in
Spoga.
Spanish.
Yeah, Spoga could be a thing. I want to quickly, before I let you guys go, just go on a bit of a diatribe again, and I want to say thank you guys so much for coming onto the show. First and foremost, for giving me and the listeners your time. I have only known you for a short period of time, and Jeff shorter, but I feel like this podcast has given me so much. It's allowed for me to understand who you guys are outside of your brand, but has always also let me know more about your brand specifically and our listeners as well. So I want to thank you for coming on and sharing your story with us and being so open. And I also want to thank you for unknowingly inspiring people like myself and the people that are listening to this show, because you guys have gone and done a left turn most people do right. Not only are you going down this road of very challenging industry, being entrepreneurs, but you're doing it as a couple, which in itself has so many different dynamics. So I applaud you guys, and I am more than happy, and the listeners I'm sure would agree with this, we will fly the Windfall flag as much as we possibly can. Whatever you guys are doing now or in the future, please let us know so we can support any and all your projects, because I think, again, the story is fantastic. The people behind it are amazing. And again, I get inspired by people like you coming onto the show and doing what you guys just did. So thank you so much.
And Brad, thank you for being interested.
Yeah, no, man, totally.
Yeah, and for giving your time and, just giving everything that you're giving to this project. And giving us a platform.
Yeah, like for me, it feels very selfish because I get to get into your minds a bit and understand better what makes you guys tick. I'm so intrigued by people like you guys. And like I said, I love finding out more about brands and companies that I'm intrigued by. And that's a cool thing about this show, is I get to have on the show who I want to have on the show.
That's amazing.
So thank you guys again for allowing me to do that, and have you guys on as guests. And thank you to Martin, my neighbor.
Thanks, Martin.
Shout out to Martin for allowing us to come into his condo today. That is it, guys. Before I let you go officially, if people want to reach out and find out more about your product, where they can buy it, limited edition stuff, where can they best do that? How can they interact with you guys?
Info at windfallcider.ca. That would be the best way. We can we'll both reach out.
Okay.
Just go to the website www.windfallcider.ca, and you can click contact there, and you will reach us through there. Also through Instagram as well.
Instagram as well.
Yep, at Windfall Cider.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Any last words for listeners? Inspiring words, closing words, anything you guys want to share before you take off?
Yeah, do it. Go and do it. If you don't do it right now, you're going to be kicking yourself 5 years later that you were not 5 years ahead on the road of where you thought you could not be 5 years ago. Do it. It's if there's something that you want to do, start small, but just get up and do it.
Right. I like that.
Try cider.
Try cider, real cider.
Real cider.
In a
Real
wine
cider.
glass.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Nathaly. Thank you, Jeff. You guys know what to do. Tune in next week for a brand new episode. And until then, guys, be good and do good. That's it.
Thank you.
Easy.
Thank you.